What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dynasty Underdog. Billy Beeman here. Got Uriah Dawkins with me as always, and a very special guest, Tommy Blair. Very good friend of the show, Tommy Blair, co-host of the Superflex Super Show. He's on like so many other shows too. How you doing, man? So good to have you back, man.
Billy, thanks for having me on. I think I've said this before, but this is legitimately my favorite podcast to listen to. And so it's awesome every time I get invited on. It's just like, it's really cool. I appreciate it.
Awesome. That's bonkers. Like the fact that this is anybody's even close to favorite pod is that's awesome. That makes me very happy, and that's so cool. So it's really cool to have you back on. We have a really fun show sheet tonight, man. Variety of stuff to talk about, player takes, just kind of your in-season process, a whole bunch of stuff. Some stuff you send in the DU Discord that I want to talk about a little bit. Be really fun to talk about. But let's get it going with some player takes. Now we don't do like too much of that, but we are going to talk a little bit deeper than just like, what we think about these guys. But let's just get it going here. I mean, we're going to start with one of the more brutal things we saw over the weekend, just to kind of start off with some news here. But the Tyreek Hill injury, or I guess I shouldn't say weekend, but Monday night, the torn ACL, dislocated knee, one of the more horrific injuries I think we've seen in a while. Yeah. I guess the real question here is kind of like, is it over for Tyreek? Because he did kind of look like he was sort of gaining some steam in this game, right? Like he had a kind of slow start to the season, so did the Dolphins, but he was definitely getting back on track. And it really felt like he never lost the speed or anything and all that stuff, even being old. So, I mean, Tommy, how do you kind of approach a profile like this? Is this somebody you're just like, goodbye, or maybe an opportunity to buy low on a really good player?
Tyreek Hill fits a really interesting part of your contending rosters right now. And now there's access to maybe even like a bridge year or rebuilding roster as well. So I have a team that's really, really thin. Tyreek Hill was one of 3 wide receivers. It was a start 3 wide receiver league, right? So I was playing him every week, good, bad, ugly, whatever. Now he's gone. What did I do? I traded him for Keenan Allen straight up. I felt like it was a good deal for both of us because this manager was up against some roster spot issues, right? Like they had a guy coming off of IR and they needed to put somebody else there. And so they moved laterally, maybe at a slight value loss. I think I won the value game in the immediate term, but this manager was able to put someone else on their IR and sort of manage the flow of their team a little bit better. And come March or whenever, I'm guessing the value of Keenan Allen and Tyreek Hill is going to be about the same, which is close to nothing, right? And so we help each other out. If I'm on a rebuilding team or, one of those middle tier teams and I've got extra IR space, I'm willing to send out 1-for-1 deals of my 6 worst players. And if that gets the deal done, great. If not, okay, no biggie. What do you think though, Uriah? What are you doing with this?
Man, honestly, well, your advice is great. The whole 1-to-1 Keenan Allen thing. I was thinking, maybe Chris Godwin type deal. I was kind of looking for a pivot for a guy like Billy and I were talking earlier, maybe just coming off of injury or people have kind of forgotten about or don't believe in anymore. Very similar to what you did, but I can't say I did anything personally because I am in the zero shares, zero cares. Part of this discussion. I don't actually have any Tyreek Hill anymore. So, but I like your advice quite a bit.
Yeah, like a Justice Hill type deal for a Tyreek this time of year for a rebuilder seems like the move, right? Because like, again, you're getting those points off your team. You're, getting a roster spot essentially. And you have the added benefit of a guy who is next to zero value, could be more than 0 at some point, right? Like if he comes back and wants to make a return or something like that. So you do get that added benefit. But yeah, just, man, it really looks bad. So I do understand why anyone would just be like, yeah, career's over, done. But I just feel like we've seen a lot of these kind of injuries. I shouldn't say a lot of these kind of injuries. This is really bad, but we've seen plenty of injuries, torn ACLs, dislocated stuff, and they do end up coming back. Like modern medicine is pretty good. So I would not be surprised if he tried to make a comeback and that just the value kind of spikes at some point. So worth mentioning. Got Tony here in the comments. Good night, sweet prince. Dell-like recovery, won't be back till 2027. I'm holding him on IR until then, but not expecting much from a 33, 34-year-old who may have some of his powers taken away, which is that speed. It's a great breakdown for sure. Probably the more conservative view on it. So yeah, appreciate that, Tony. Okay, let's keep it moving. Let's move on to AJ Brown, something a little more interesting here with a player who's actually going to play the rest of the season. Hopefully, never
God
know.
willing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But we're seeing throughout the first couple of games, we're seeing really low lows, some pretty high highs. Right? We did see a pretty big game this last game, or the prior game to this past one. Over 100 yards, touchdown, really good game, and then just back down. Though the targets were there, so this is AJ Brown. He's still relatively young, still plenty of years ahead of him. Like, how do you approach somebody like this? Like, and I honestly, I kind of want to frame this more as like, as a contender, because he's a much more difficult asset to assess on a contender. So like, how do you manage an AJ Brown? Are you looking to move on from him, or are you just kind of holding and waiting?
The wide receiver position this year is different than the last few. Would you guys agree with that? Just the dynamics that are at play, where we've got Brian Thomas maybe struggling a little bit with yips or consistency effort, something like that. CeeDee Lamb goes down. The two alpha wide receivers, maybe in all of Dynasty, with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, losing quarterbacks, or the offensive scheme not really facilitating a high volume pass attack. It's an interesting time right now at elite wide receiver, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot different. Yeah,
I think there's also a lot of opportunity potentially if you still believe in these guys.
Yep.
Exactly. And I mean, AJ Brown's problem has not been a decline in skills, from what I've seen at least. You look at the metrics and he's still on the field like 90+% of the time. He's still getting something like 7 targets per game. It's just sort of a weird lull for AJ Brown. I think he's still an amazing wide receiver. I think he's still capable of doing highly efficient, highly productive, elite things on a football field. And I think it translates very directly to fantasy football. And we're given a little bit of a grace period, in my opinion, with these other elite guys underperforming to a degree. Like, if you don't have JSN or Puka or, Amon-Ra, maybe, you're in a big pile of everyone else. And AJ Brown fits in there. The thing is, he's 27, 28 years old, and he's cheaper, more accessible. There are more fears, in my opinion, around AJ Brown. So I'm kind of buying. I'm interested. How you layer him in on your dynasty teams is another problem. I think pairing him almost with like a high-low, or having an immediate producer and then some patience with AJ Brown is the way to go as a contender. We just talked about Keenan Allen. I mean, what are you paying for Keenan Allen? 2/3, something like that.
Yeah. And you may get lower than that.
Yeah. Pay a third or two, or a couple of them, and go get Keenan Allen as well, because there's going to be a hamstring pull with Keenan Allen. Something like that is going to happen, and he's going to disappear from the fantasy landscape. And, DJ might succumb. and then AJ Brown sort of fits into your contending roster. But yeah, you got to have a little bit more patience than you're anticipating. It's a tough thing to do in week 4, week 5, especially as we go into buys.
Great.
Yeah, totally. Anything to add there, Uriah?
No, I mean, I think this is the guy that you got to be patient with. This sits there. I think he's, like top 5 and like unrealized air yards. Like, he's getting targets at a rate that we really like. It's just the offense. I mean, you go into the last game, like they didn't throw a single pass in the whole entire second half. Like, that's not always going to be the case, right?
He still had 9 targets.
Still had 9 targets, yeah. And the team in general has been being very good on special teams. So it's kind of just, they haven't had a whole lot of like normal ass games, in my opinion, going throughout the last 4 weeks. So, some of the stuff happens. I mean, he put up a massive amount in week 2. So you got to be patient. And I'm a little impatient. I said, I think in the Discord, like, hey, I want this guy off my team, but I really don't. I just want him to do what I know he's capable of. And there's no reason, in my opinion, to believe that he won't be able to bounce back.
Yeah, no, I definitely am in a similar boat. I just can't quit AJ Brown. He's just so damn good. Yeah, and he's the big body. He's like everything you want out of a typical, prototypical wide receiver, right? And so you just want him to do his thing, because you can see out there he's doing it. They're just not connecting. So I agree. I think over time this will kind of even out. But I do want to say shout out to John Hogue. I remember listening to an episode where you guys were talking about who's going to be the wide receiver one or whatever, those kind of things. And he was all over Amon-Ra this year. And I definitely took note of that, and I actually got him in a couple spots. And I do think that his process with that sometimes is a little interesting, but I do think that there's something there with the, not being able to replicate the season over, duplicate a season, I guess, back to back, those kind of things for wide receiver ones. But just wanted to give him his flowers there, because I do think currently, I mean, he's right on the money with all the other elite wide receivers kind of falling by the wayside with Amon-Ra. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah,
but
it's the season of John. I've dubbed it. Like, he has all of his player takes are coming true. I have no idea like how he figured out, like, peeked through the right keyholes or whatever. But yeah, listen to John on player takes. He's got it figured out.
Yeah, I always at least listen, and I'm like, all right, let me see if this makes sense within my world of like ranking these players. And I'm like, yeah, I could totally get with that. Amon-Ra is like right there with anybody else and could do this year, and the other ones have plenty of reasons why they wouldn't or won't. Totally. And so yeah, shout out on the AJ Brown thing. So I do have AJ Brown on a contender, and somebody sent me CMC for him straight up. Are you doing that?
Woof. I don't know if you have a choice but to take CMC.
I hate that answer, because that's what it feels like when you receive that offer. You're like, I have to do that, right? But then it's like, holy shit, this could end really poorly.
It's not even a CMC or a AJ Brown take. Like, you can like put them to the side for a second. It's the fact that you can replace wide receiver production so much easier, and the things that CMC is doing right now are so unique. His target share is just absurd. You can expect 10 targets a game right now for however long it lasts. And what you're doing if you get CMC is you're making the bet that you're going to be out in front far enough that when he goes down, if he goes down, that you have enough wins in the chamber already, and you're going to get the bye. And, you're going to skip a week, and you're going to figure out what to do on that semifinals week, Yeah.
No trade deadline leagues. How about you, Uriah? Would you be able to click accept on that?
I can't.
Yeah,
I can't. I'm looking at the asset that I could have on my roster for the next 3 years, and I just don't see that with CMC, so it scares me. But I never said I was good at this game. So
Uriah, how many players do you keep for 3 years? Honestly,
me, a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm a pick and choose trader. I'm not a very active trader.
And I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, if you're not somebody that is going to be churning your roster, like, I don't have. So I was looking at my teams. A lot of times I only carry like 4 players over year, and the rest of them are gone.
Wow.
Like, that's a different mentality than you, Uriah. Like,
yes.
If I have to sit with either CMC or AJ Brown for 3 full years, give me AJ Brown
all day. But you're never that's never the equation for you ever. Exactly. Like, you're never right. That's super interesting, man. Like, how you play Dynasty definitely impacts like your answer to any of these questions, right? Like, that's super interesting. You don't really think about it that way. So that's fair. I will say I'm like somewhere kind of in the middle on that, because like I want to find a way to get it done, but I don't feel like I feel like I should be getting more back on my side, even though CMC is producing so many points. This was the first offer, so maybe I'll shoot a counter back and see if I can make it worth my while. But I saw that, and like just thinking about how like Uriah basically get this guy off my team. That is how you kind of feel about AJ Brown, right? And so it's like when somebody's offering you 23 points a game or whatever it is that CMC is offering, you're like, well, I mean, like, how can I not? So it's a really, really tough one. And that's the tough challenge of Dynasty, is like balancing that long-term value of somebody being on your team and being there for you, and short-term value of somebody winning you a league potentially, right? With the risk of him maybe tearing his Achilles mid-season and everything blows up in your face, right? I mean, that's the game we play, so we got to live and die by the sword sometimes. Okay, let's keep it pushing here. Great stuff there, both of you. Really appreciate it. Now we're going to turn over to Tommy's world a little bit here, okay? The Jacksonville Jaguars. I know you got some love for T-Law and them boys down there. So I want to talk about this a little bit. What do we do with Travis Hunter? All right, so we have a tweet here. Liam Cohen says injuries at wide receiver and or cornerback won't affect Hunter's usage. He's playing just one position at wide receiver and one at cornerback. Will build more in years to come. And so an injury, to either of those wouldn't really affect anything. So like, I guess the next wide receiver or cornerback steps in and be like Parker Washington playing more wide receiver when Damien Brown went down. So it's like with this happening and with like them, we are seeing him pretty much kind of play both sides. And, they're obviously not really connecting well on offense either at the moment, just on any cylinder whatsoever, not just them two. You can probably throw Brian Thomas Jr. into this conversation if you'd like to vent a little bit. But yeah, man, what do you do with a guy like Travis Hunter who is clearly so talented? Like you see the flashes there.
What were your expectations coming into the season, y'all? And where were you drafting Travis Hunter in rookie drafts?
Man, it sucks because I wanted to be drafting Travis Hunter at like the 103, but like, first of all, I rarely ever got the opportunity to, because either somebody was like taking him ahead of me or whatever it was, or if I was like at the 104 or whatever it was. So I probably would have tried to snag a share or two there, but I was much more comfortable at like the 106, 107 spot because I think we had the idea that there were some risks there despite the talent, right? And so for me, like I'm seeing stuff that's encouraging on tape to where I would buy him personally. Like I've already sent out like just straight first for him to see if anybody's worried, I'll easily do that. I think over time, like he's going to produce enough on offense to be fantasy viable. So yeah, I'm not too concerned personally, but yeah, Uriah, were you more concerned? Are you more concerned with what you see?
No, I mean, I think I've expressed this, online a little bit, but like always assumed that it's going to be a little messy. I didn't really think it was going to be quite this chaotic. Like, I mean, I at least thought his usage week to week would be a little more consistent on both sides of the ball. And it just really hasn't been. I think like week 2, it was, week 3, I think it was like a vast more on defense than it was wide receiver. I just thought we would see some of a pattern or at least some sort of tell of like, okay, this guy's actually, he's playing 60% of his snaps on wide receiver consistently every week, or even 50, or whatever the number is. It didn't even really matter what the actual number was. I just thought it'd be something that we could rely on. I got no dog in the fight again here. No shares, no cares. I'm with Billy. Like I think going into rookie drafts, before we, started actually drafting our rookies, just kind of looking at what Travis Hunter is and could be and what they took him in the draft. I always thought that a spot like 106, 107 was like, that was probably where I would have felt comfortable adding that type of player to my roster. So I don't have any shares. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, right in that range was what, like Caleb Johnson, RJ Harvey, Jackson Dart. So, I mean, there was opportunities to get into Travis Hunter if you wanted to. I didn't draft any this non-point scoring season. And it was because of the injury perspective, not towards Hunter, but towards the defensive backfield. So the reason we saw a spike, I think it was week 2, maybe 3, in defensive snaps for Travis Hunter was Jarian Jones got hurt, one of the defensive backs for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And they're running thin at both wide receiver and at DB because they have the flexibility of Travis Hunter. So an injury to either side sort of dictates where he plays more football. And they're playing Travis Hunter 2/3 of the time in the slot, 1/3 out wide. He's getting like decent first read type targets. He's at like a 20% first read target share. He's just not seeing the offensive field enough. And that turns him into like Marvin Mims almost.
Yeah.
Which is not what we're going to spend a first round pick on. I think he's a really good football player. His defensive skills are outrageous. I think he's a better defender than wide receiver. But I think there is a role that will grow for him. I've seen him go for George Pickens straight up. And so if you have a wide receiver 2 or 3 type that you're willing to move off of and you want to make a risky upside bet, that's not a bad way to go, but it is risky. It's riskier than the average wide receiver, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, it absolutely is. You saw the comment, yeah. Jay here in the YouTube chat joined a little late, but I'm dismayed at the lack of formal attire. Yeah, we really dropped the ball there, dude. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was definitely supposed to come with a top hat. I got to order one for next time. I lost mine. No,
Hey, Jay,
but
buddy.
what were you gonna say?
I was just saying hey to Jay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, awesome. Okay, so if you see me tapping on my screen, my keyboard, I don't know what the hell is happening with it, so I apologize. So let's keep it moving here. I wanted to talk about one of the more interesting ones, especially in like the rise in rankings area of things. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Rome Odunze, currently sitting at wide receiver 9 on Keep Trade Cut. I was shocked to see that. Not gonna lie, tip from Jake, like he was like, yo, you maybe talk about Rome Odunze. And I was like, yeah, I mean, he's obviously having a fantastic start to the season. And I went just myself, I went and looked, Keep Trade, just a couple of sources. And I was like, whoa, okay, that was a higher than I expected to see him, even though he has had a great season, like above Drake London, within like the top 30 players, like whew, way up there. And like, look, he's a great player. He looks really good after the catch, really good at the catch point. Like, you know, I don't think he's overly dynamic after the catch or anything, but clearly a very good player. Film shows up, stats are showing up, all that good stuff. Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, like there's a lot to like. Or maybe not, depending on how you view Caleb Williams, though. I think there's been enough there to be encouraged about. So how do you not sell wide receiver 9? Tommy, are you with this? Like, what do you feel about Rome Odunze? I mean, with your feelings on wide receivers, I'd imagine you want to get out on this kind of player.
It's really interesting because when you look at the advanced metrics, right, we're talking about like yards per route run, first downs per route run, first read target share, things like that. He's really good. And those are the most predictive metrics for future success. I cram all those numbers together and try to get like a 1 number outcome. Rome Odunze is the 7th highest ranked wide receiver when you smush all those metrics together. Yeah, and he's doing things where it's like, this is a top 12 wide receiver most seasons. That's something to buy into. I don't mind buying on the way up. The thing I don't believe in is Caleb Williams. That's where I struggle with.
Okay.
It's not his wide receiver mates. It's that I don't like his quarterback. But you look at great wide receivers around the NFL, and historically, they don't need an elite quarterback to be successful for fantasy football. Nope. And so this is a situation where I'm actually buying on the way up. I actually, as we were talking, I had a trade offer. That's why I was checking my phone. It was Kyler Murray for Rome Odunze in a pretty stock Superflex league, and I declined it.
Your Rome Odunze for Kyler Murray, you declined?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't that kind of makes sense to me, honestly, especially with where he's ranked. You can just get much better in return, I feel like, than Kyler Murray at the very least. And if you just like Rome Odunze, obviously you're holding. So totally understandable. Yeah, I mean, just buying up there at that price. If I don't have to pay that price, I would absolutely love to. I mean, I wouldn't mind buying high and you know, sending a couple first or whatever it may be necessarily like for him. You know, provided like probably later and all that kind of stuff. But I think there's definitely a way to get in him. But I also think at that price, I would be looking to see what I could get out on. Wide receiver 9 is very high. I do, you know, everything I said I like about him, but again, like there's plenty of question marks with Caleb Williams, and you know, there's plenty of question marks with the team in general, honestly, outside of really Rome Odunze right now. He's the best piece they have in that, and he's looked the best by far. Anything from you, Uriah, on Odunze?
No, just was going back to we talked about pre-show about neighbors, and we didn't bring them up, but
oh, geez, yeah.
I was just thinking, I'm still trying to figure out ways what to do with the neighbors thing, and how confident would you be able to get Odunze plus for neighbors, and would you do that?
Can you do that? Odunze straight up for neighbors, regardless of if I was contending, rebuilding, whatever.
You'd sell Odunze straight up no matter what for neighbors, you saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wouldn't add anything. When you get these sorts of promising underlying metrics, that's something where, you know, you have a possibility to differentiate yourself. There are plenty of wide receivers that are good for fantasy football. There are only like 6 who are great for fantasy football. Odunze could ascend to the great category, and that's not to be taken lightly. I'm not going to add anything to Malik Neighbors, who I think is probably should be the wide receiver one, regardless of the fact that he has a torn ACL.
Would you take Odunze and a first back for Neighbors?
If I were contending, yeah, I'd probably have to, right? Because you can do a lot with that first. You're sort of making, I think, what Jordan McNamara calls a two-way go, where there's two ways where you can win on your side of the deal, right? Like, I think that those types of deals are out there. If you're willing to shop Neighbors, it's not something that I am really inclined to do, though. I don't want to see what's out there,
Yeah,
the grass may be greener, but I don't want that temptation.
Yeah, I mean,
it's an ugly feeling.
Yeah,
and like with Neighbors, like I'm fully expecting him to have a recovery and be fine over time. You know what I mean? So like I have no issue with holding him at all. I don't want to be selling him necessarily, but if you're getting offers like that, of course, I think we need to, consider them. With Neighbors, what I was saying to Uriah is maybe, oh my God. What I was saying to Uriah is maybe going after, instead of like, if the only option is to like sell your Neighbors share for something, I'd be like, okay, well, maybe let me take a step lower, try to get some like wide receiver production like Godwin or something like that. You know what I mean? Who's coming back off injury, who somebody wants to get rid of. Obviously, you're not going to get anything near what you were getting from Neighbors, but you're still going to be like filling something in cheaper, not sending away your high value asset, potential wide receiver one in the future, that kind of thing. So there's definitely a few ways to get the job done. But yeah, that's a super interesting, like Odunze in a first. Odunze in general is just like a super interesting asset right now. So there's a lot of things I think we can get done with and around that asset, both buying and selling. Okay, good stuff there. Let's move on from player takes here. Going to talk about something. This could be a quick conversation. Doesn't have to be long, but it's something I was thinking about. Just interesting because I don't know if I had really formalized this for myself, but I wanted to know from you, Tommy, and from Uriah, of course. But I feel like I've talked to him about this before, maybe just in our general conversations. Is there a cadence or like a rhythm to your in-season process? And like I've posted I wanted to post like an example of what I'm thinking here. And I'm really thinking more of like Monday through Sunday, like what are your action items? Because we have so many leagues, you know what I mean? There's a lot of leagues, there's a lot to get done. And if you don't think about it in this way, I mean, for sure, for myself, like I've certainly forgot to set waivers and missed out on, good waiver claims and those kind of things. So it's like on Monday, you're reviewing and setting waivers. And for me, I'm setting the show sheet for this, and it's like Tuesday, you're still, setting more waivers or whatever. Then you're setting lineups and it's like, whatever you're doing on Thursday besides watching football, those kind of things. So like, is there a cadence for you or are you just kind of winging it? Because I'm sure many people are just winging it, right?
Probably.
Absolutely, they're winging it. Yeah, because life gets in the way, right? For a lot of folks, this is just like an office hobby or a family hobby or whatever. For the sickos who listen to this show, maybe it's a little bit more.
It's lifestyle. It's a lifestyle.
It's part of like your routine daily. And for me, when I was just starting out, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to do it super intentionally, and I wanted to get good at every aspect of Dynasty Fantasy Football. And it was like, there was a lot of like conscious incompetence. Like I knew I was doing things wrong and I was trying to figure them out, right? And optimize. What I do now, like 6 years later, is I have a lot of like automated processes, right? So I don't set any lineups. This year, I've actually stopped watching film for the most part because I found a resource, Pete Davidson, who I was watching all the games, right? And I was writing notes and I was listening to this guy, Rotobon, Pete Davidson. He was saying the exact same things I was writing down. And so I was like, wait a minute. What benefit am I getting from all of these hours of reviewing film if I can just rely on somebody who's already doing it? We have the same takeaways and I can spend my time elsewhere. Like a weekly cadence is really a exercise in time management, isn't it? Like how little do I have to do to get similar results? And how can I cover up my blind spots? And so what I've done is I've become a little bit more of a like process improvement dynasty player, utilizing the actions and tools of others, right? So there's a waiver assistant on the Fantasy Pros tool. I pay the whatever, $100 a year, whatever it is. And they just give me all of the consensus waiver claims that I probably should be doing. And I take, I don't know, 20% of them, 15% of them. And I just, use the AI tool to figure out how much I'm supposed to bid, right? I don't set lineups. I don't watch film. I've drawn down data into spreadsheets every single week that the Fantasy Points Data Suite puts out, and it automates my rankings every single week. It's like once you start to step back from the grind of the process and just let the process be its own thing, then you can sort of audit that process, and you can start to look at other people's process and find the weaknesses in it. Because as you establish these cadences, what you're doing is, when you have those rhythms, is you're exposing what you're going to be doing in future weeks. And that can be taken advantage of. So the less time you're focusing on yourself, the more time you can focus on others, because we all have limited time to play this game, don't we?
Such a good answer. What the fuck? God damn it, Tommy. You came through with such a good answer on that. You're like a process improvement, like fantasy football specialist. You know what I mean? Like, because like it's funny. It's like my job. I manage a business intelligence team, and like a lot of what we're doing is like optimizing and automating shit. And it's like literally like I think part of the reason I haven't done that for fantasy for me is I like some of the manual. Like, you know what I mean? There's some of that is like feeling like you're managing a team kind of thing or whatever, right? And so
Yeah.
there's definitely some of that for me. Like I enjoy the actions of doing certain things, though some of them I enjoy less for sure, and wouldn't mind automating in the way that you have. So I think like waiver bids is a great one. Like what you're doing there, just kind of like really just streamline the process, make it super easy. Like that's something I think I could benefit from. So that's a great answer, honestly. It's almost, yeah, your cadence is automated at this point, right? In some form or fashion for those like real in-season actions and activities. Obviously, for trades, you're still going out there, and that's where you're probably spending a lot of your energy, is like getting to understand what your league mates are doing and navigating trades. Like which is where you want to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, the more time you can spend on that, the more time you can positively, most likely, or hopefully, impact your team.
One of the great parts of it is that the process is mine, but the individual components aren't mine. And so it's tougher to get a read on me because I'm utilizing the skills and efficiencies of others, right? And so to understand me as a manager, you almost have to tap into the same exact resources as me to get in front of the moves that I'm going to be making, And so you can leverage that, you can leverage the fact that you're not using your brain, you're using the brain of others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, I mean, I don't know if you do this, but I'm sure there are still times where you hear something from one of these resources that you disagree with, and that will probably lead you to go to some tape still. Like, not as much tape, but you're like, wait, let me go and take a look at this myself and be sure that like I'm seeing what he's seeing and there's not a disconnect here. So like, as much as, which I think what you're saying is really good, because you should trust others and use resources and everything like that. But you also want to make sure that you're still inserting yourself where you disagree and not just blindly following along. You know what I mean? That's a big part of this, and catching yourself and not kind of slipping along the way. Okay, Uriah, what about you? You got an in-season cadence? What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's still pretty old school, but shout out Jake for bringing it up a couple weeks ago, like the lineup optimizer thing. Part of it was always like me figuring out players and looking at defensive back matchups and teams who give up the most points to wide receivers, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And then I get mad at myself for when one of the guys on my bench goes off, and I'm like, well, this is stupid. Why do I even do this? And so I was like, I'm going to try out, Jake's suggestion or whatever. And so I just been using a tool. It looks across, I don't know, like 6 or 7 different rankings and says, hey, and I'll just go one by one. The next person that they say put in, I put in. I do that Wednesday morning, and I don't change anything unless there's an injury. And at the end of the week, I'm not mad about it. I'm like, it is what it is. Like, there were 6 consensus rankings that they took this from, and they said I should start this guy. I'm going to do it. They're smarter than me. Like, I'm not going to sit there and spend, 20 minutes per position or whatever it was, just to like make sure you're getting the best matchup. Like, I'm not playing DFS or whatever. So I've been doing that this year, and that has like taken a burden off of me as far as like whether or not I'm a bad player. Like, like I always tell people, don't ask me start sit questions, because I suck. Like, it happens all the time. So I've been doing that, and that acts really, like, I don't know, just made everything a little bit happier for me as the week goes on, as far as start sit goes. And then obviously your waivers are Tuesdays. I think one thing I will add is it's going to take me probably 2 minutes per league Wednesday morning I'm going to go through and see who was dropped on waivers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I could have had Kendra Miller. He shouldn't have been out there in the first place. What the hell are we doing? So things like that. That's a simple thing, I believe, that you could take 2 minutes per league and make sure that nobody's making boneheaded moves. That's about it.
That's great stuff. You know how much time I spent this last week considering Dak Prescott or Michael Penix or Sam Darnold?
Way too much.
Only to be wrong at the end. when the highest projection was absolutely Dak Prescott the whole time. Like, so, I think trusting some of these tools may be for our benefit, and again, relying on ourselves for the things that we can't rely on the tools for, which is like those complex trades that are really impacting our team. So we can move on here. I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. I think it's really beneficial if you don't have an automated process, at the very least, setting up like 30-minute blocks on each day for these activities. I'm sure most people don't have as many leagues as we potentially do, but even if you do, setting those 30-minute blocks, like going to the side and just knocking this stuff out, like it'll make you happier at the end of the week because you will not be forgetting stuff. And like for me, I know that's like something that honestly negatively impacts my dynasty leagues more than it should. It's like forgetting some simple little thing. You're like, holy shit, like that just ruined my day. Like that ruined my day. So like, don't let it. Just kind of put a schedule together and don't let it impact your family stuff. And boom, you got it covered. So, okay, we shall move on from our in-season cadence. Great stuff from both of you there. Let's talk a little bit about the trading trends we've seen so far. So after 4 weeks, or 4 weeks in, we've seen kind of what's going on in our leagues, a little bit more activity pickup. I talked about this last week a little bit. Mm-hmm. Is there any trading trends so far that you've seen? And I mean, whether you have the numbers or not, like, is there any comparison historically to the past couple of years that you're seeing that you can take advantage of in the first, few weeks of the year? And we can start there and see if we get anywhere from there. But Tommy, I guess let's throw it to you first real quick here. Any trends so far you're seeing from a trading perspective in your leagues after week 4?
Quite a few, actually. Yeah. So the any QB on a 2 deep strategy has been the most profitable from a liquidation standpoint, just because we had, that rush of 5 quarterbacks that went down. And so there was a lot of opportunity to move. I think I moved Jake Browning into Michael Pittman, or to move Marcus Mariota into a 3rd and a 4th, stuff like that. The running back market has been a little bit different this year. I think it's probably because of the influx of rookie talent, where I'm seeing significantly fewer trades being done. And historically, that is the move, right? Get a shitload of running backs, trade them when they pop, right? Get a 3rd and then do a 2-3 swap, and then do it again, and then get a few seconds together, find a way to package that with Michael Pittman and get a future first, right? That's how you sort of build up the war chest of draft capital. I'm not seeing that happening in my leagues nearly as much. However, the rookie running backs are really starting to pop. And so we have a different inflection point, I think, this year than previous years, going all the way back to like 2017, where we have to make long-term dynasty decisions using the running back sort of as the crux of this new, this new middle tier of the dynasty market. I think Woody Marks is somebody that is going to be really interesting. We had a Bill Krosky-Merritt phase. Like, there are going to be these cycles. And I don't think the stories are going to be written after 4 weeks or 8 or 12 or, 1 or 2 seasons. This is going to be a really interesting dynamic with the running back position as a whole. And I think it's going to push us in interesting ways. Looking at scoring overall this year, we're seeing, passing is way up. Compared to last year. We had the death of the forward pass early in the season last year. Right now, we've got quarterbacks going absolutely apeshit, and that's creating interesting opportunities, especially for like quarterback heavy builds, to leverage injuries to a Joe Burrow, let's say. And so I found there's like really big shifts in the dynasty market within my leagues to where big time players are getting moved. Ashton Genty was getting moved. CeeDee Lamb was getting moved. Burrow.
Definitely seen that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Drake London. Like there were really, really big trades happening. Brian Thomas Jr. So if you're hunting at the top, there's a lot going on right now. Uriah, are you seeing the same thing, man?
Yeah, I would say that. I think we talked about this shoot, it might have been last week, or the week before, but we kind of were seeing some. I forget. Billy had a nice little saying for what we were seeing, but I think there was maybe some panic, going on. Maybe a lot of it had to do with the rookie running backs. See, it's a different conversation after the week that we just had with these rookie running backs.
The anticipatory anxiety.
Anticipatory anxiety. Yeah. So you drafted Ashton Jinty 101, and you're sitting there after 3 weeks being like, what the fuck am I going to do? And I've seen some people make some what the fuck kind of trades. And so I just think it has to do with, I mean, we practice this all the time, patience and, it's a long season, although when the season's over, it seemed like it went by so fast, but 3 weeks is not enough for a really solid trend that you're going to make an educated decision on for the future of your dynasty team, especially with high valued players. It's just the knee-jerk reactions could really get you in trouble, really do a lot more damage than anything else. So I have seen some trades that I'm just like, I'm not sure why we're doing that right now at this point in time. So I just think it has a lot to do with maybe some rookie wide receivers, rookie running backs coming out slower than we kind of were hoping for, right? So
yeah, that's definitely part of it. I think Tommy kind of nails it. You're seeing so many trades with high-end players happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to what we were talking about kind of at the beginning of this episode with AJ Brown and the elite wide receivers, right? It's like there's so much vulnerability at the top right now. That's honestly where a lot of us should be focusing our energy on trying to acquire players. Like there's so many on-ramps to Justin Jeffersons, to AJ Browns, to CeeDee Lamb right now, to Neighbors, to you name it. Like there's on-ramps to these guys. So I think that's a huge thing that I'm already seeing people trying to take advantage of, but I think we need to, more purposefully attack. From my perspective, the trend that I was seeing coming into this week was just a lot of rookies being swapped around. I saw a lot of rookies being swapped for other rookies, plus a little thing here and there. And those, so, and again, like that can definitely be lucrative depending on who you're going for and which side you're on, of course. But it's kind of what Uriah was saying. It's like we're getting a little over our skis too early in the season. So you definitely want to make sure you're on the right side of those deals and make sure that you're not panicking too much, I would say, in these moments. Those are some of the trends I'm seeing. And personally, I feel like I've seen a lot more trading than I remember early last year this time. But I don't know. How do you feel about that, Tommy? You think the same?
It's interesting because this is why I like listening to newer voices in the fantasy space. I don't know what it is to trade for Patrick Mahomes. It's not because I don't like Patrick Mahomes. It's because I have him freaking everywhere. I don't know what the market is because I'm not selling Patrick Mahomes, right? This is why you should listen to other voices, especially like, I talk about quarterbacks all the time. I'm on the Superflex Super Show, yet I have this huge market blind spot. I don't trade for very many elite quarterbacks because I have so many elite quarterbacks. So that well is just dry in my leagues. No trades get done for elite quarterbacks, right? And so if you're going to be consuming content, it feels important to me to listen to new voices that are sort of like discovering and being messy and learning and building up their own portfolio and their own dynasty leagues, because they're the ones that are doing the work of acquiring these players or people who are willing to try different strategies, right? Like that's why I try different strategies at times, is because I need to have access to the entire fantasy market. If you build up a team and you get into an ideal build, the volume of trades that you do, regardless of if you're contending or rebuilding, should probably be different, right? Like I shouldn't be trading away quarterbacks. I shouldn't. So that makes it so that I am less likely to be having a good finger on the pulse by grabbing another abandoned team or doing a startup. It gives me that opportunity to play in that sandbox again. So get a very wide variety of voices would be a recommendation of mine if you want to tap into the market more fully, or join a Discord like the Dynasty Underdog Discord. There's people all the time posting, should I do this type of deal? And it's like, okay, so that's sort of what the market is saying right now,
Oh, absolutely. That's such a benefit for the Discords, man. Like for myself too, like I always am finding super interesting stuff in there and insights just from like the trades that people are posting and whatnot. So I absolutely agree with that. Last thing I'll mention here is I think Tommy kind of alluded to this, but like the Jake Browning for a third trade, like those trades, and not just with quarterbacks, though those are very useful assets right now because of all the injuries and whatnot. But like I'm seeing a lot of opportunity for the 3rd and 4th round picks to come back if you want to acquire them, right? For those back end players. So Trey Tuckers, Tyquan Thorntons, like, all these kind of players, like I'm definitely seeing, and even seeing myself be like, wait, are they actually worth that? Like, are they worth, should I be sending? And it's like, no, like those are the guys you send away for those picks. You know what I mean? And so like, don't hesitate to look around your league for who is impacted by injuries and send those kind of offers. Those 3rds and 4ths, what do we call them? Championship tokens back in the day, right? Like they end up being that come playoff time or, trade deadline time. Like you can package a couple of those up, or come rookie draft season time, package those up and you jump up in the rookie draft. So, don't hesitate to acquire those 3rd and 4th round picks. They're more valuable than you think, and not always because you're selecting a player with them. So a lot of opportunity out there right now. Okay, cool stuff. We're going to keep it moving here. Got something from Tommy from the Discord. Good QB versus average QB. So I'm going to let you kind of jump in and explain a little bit about the data here, but I do want to just throw out kind of some of the comments that came through on this. I mean, I will also throw it up for the people watching. We have it here, so you can kind of see the graph we're talking about. But this is what quarterback points per game through weeks 1 through 3, and it's showing the rank by points per game, essentially from 1 to 12 over the last 5 years. And so what you popped it in there and said is the difference from a good QB year versus an average QB or an average one is felt almost mostly at the very top, right? And so what exactly are you taking away from this graph?
I think quarterback is an interesting position. And I think if you look year over year at all of the positions, you see very similar dynamics. It almost looks like a rope to me. As you bend this piece of rope, it sort of makes like a sloping downward trend. And nowhere does it fray really, except at the very top of the position, like the quarterback 1 overall, the quarterback 2 overall. You see this fraying effect year over year, where some years it's a good quarterback year, right? And that means that more than 30 points per game are happening with the quarterback 1, sometimes up to like 35 points per game. And that's sort of the unstoppable element of quarterback 1. We don't know who that is going to be going into the year. But when we get a good quarterback year, yeah, you're getting like 35 points per game. When you're having like an average or bad quarterback year, that's about 25 points per game, right? So there's like a 10 point per game spread, and we can never really tell. There's this cyclical nature to the NFL. And so, every 7 years or so, we sort of get a reset, the pendulum swinging, as Zach Reed likes to say, between the running game being dominant and the passing game sort of catching up and finding a way to exploit these defensive tendencies, right? Yeah. And so what I noticed and what I wanted to highlight to the Discord listeners is, if you get a good quarterback year, it's typically the best, 5 or 6 quarterbacks that differentiate themselves from the normalization, from that sloping rope, so to speak, to where, the quarterback 14 looks like the quarterback 14 every single year. But if you're going to have some sort of advantage, you really need to go to the very top. And that's why I created the arms race strategy of getting the top 5 quarterbacks, is because they can really bend warp curves. They can really have those outlier outcomes. And when you get them, you've created a super team just by filling your quarterback 1 and your super flex spots. And it's just an illustration of that. It's just 3 weeks, but if you go season over season, it looks kind of like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really, really good point. Just a couple of things to mention here. I think it's interesting that, 2020 through 2022, you kind of saw those 30 to 35 range at the top seasons. And then 2023 to 2025, you see that dipping down to closer to like 25-ish area. And, Tony in Discord very appropriately mentions, cover 2 shell implementation is noticeable. I definitely think that that's definitely having an impact there. But while, I think your point is probably more important, that, like these guys at the top, and if you can consolidate those into, a room on one team, you're going to have a significant advantage over time. I think that's a really important point. For me, though, what this reminds me of, and I think a lot of people forget this, is that like we're looking at like QB rank through the top 12, and it kind of flattens out around 8 to 12, right?
Yep.
But if you just go deeper than that, because we play in a lot of super flex leagues, right? Like it gets super flat all the way through there to, you know, the 30 whatever quarterback. And I don't really want to be rostering that many players. Like if you look at my teams, either I have like, and this isn't always great because if you lose a quarterback, like you're in a tough spot, but like I either have 2 or 3 elite quarterbacks and nothing really else after that, because I'm not starting Jake Browning in my super flex spot. I'll just start Stephon Diggs or something. You know what I mean? Like he's going to get me more points on average probably than that back end quarterback or whatever it is, or like the 25th through, you know, 32nd quarterback, or, you know, there's some wiggle room there. But really after the top like 15, you're just getting into such a flat territory that like, yes, they're obviously have dynasty value, and yes, some of them definitely have upside, but the consideration for starting them or rostering them goes down significantly. So you see a lot more of my rooms. I've actually noticed this is I'll have like 1 or 2 really like top end quarterbacks, and then I'll be going for like those Jackson Darts in the rookie draft, and Michael Penix, and, you know, coming off of like the rookie season where he didn't do much or whatever, and trying to get him for cheap, and having these more high upside young players mixed with my elite quarterbacks, rather than, you know, this conglomeration of like okay guys at the back end who might give you 10 to 15 points a game, but really you never want to start or feel comfortable starting. So kind of the opposite end of what you're talking about. You're talking about like the top QBs. I'm talking about the back end QBs, but it just hit me that like I've done the research on that before, and the value over replacement compared to the other positions, like you're much better off kind of rostering skill position players over those back end quarterbacks. I'm with you, of course, at the top, consolidating. If you can have 4 or 5 and just like eat the market up, you're gonna, I mean, it's amazing. But after that, like I don't want to be having Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, and then what's his name on Seattle, you know what I mean?
Sam Darnold too.
Sam Darnold, like exactly. You're nailing it. Yeah, I couldn't think of all the names, but you're nailing it. All those guys, like Tua is a guy who I am looking every single week. How can I not put this guy in my lineup? I don't want guys like that on my team. You know what I mean? Like I don't want quarterbacks like that on my team. I want players who I'm like, damn, like I have to sit him on my bench today. Like that's what I want. And so if that has to be a skill player, I'd rather it be a skill player. But just kind of a PSA about those back end quarterbacks, just be careful with how you value them, because I think we overvalue them far too often. So great stuff there. Uriah, you have anything to add here? Sorry, I just ranted for far too long there.
No, you guys nailed it. You guys did great.
Yeah, this is great data, Tommy. I really appreciate you throwing this in the Discord. I definitely was thinking about that since you threw it in there, so I'm glad we got to chat about it. All right, a couple more topics here before we get out. We got 3 more, and one of those is Dynasty trades, so that'll be fun. But real quick, before we get into those, what are you doing in season to stay ahead of your competition? Is there like specific research activities, or is it really kind of what you were saying before, what we were talking about? Like you're automating things, you have specific like people you're looking at, you know? Yeah. What's your answer there? What you got?
Staying in front. I think dynasty managers are mostly predictable. Do you guys agree that your opponents are predictable?
Yeah, I'd agree that I'm probably more predictable than I want to be. You know what I mean? Like I think I agree. I think our opponents and we all are probably a little bit more predictable than we want to be as a whole.
Yeah, I think I am as well. But I think my predictability is that I try to make people stumble. I think we're at a point in the year where we know who is emerging as a probable contender and who is going to commit to emerging as a probable contender. Yeah, I see you, Uriah. But once you identify those people, all you have to do is spend 2 minutes looking at their rosters, right? To figure out where the pitfalls are and to see where you can facilitate that, right? Like, can you starve a market on their bye week? Can you trade so that they're in a fragile situation? There's plenty of things that you can do like that. I think feeding into people's predictability in ways that are problematic for them is one of the most underrated parts of Dynasty Fantasy Football. You mentioned like you like to grind, right? There are parts of this process that you just enjoy doing. I will never set another lineup again. Never. I'm done with that portion of my life, right? Like I've finished it. Like
That's
I'm
in the
never gonna
past.
I'm never gonna move furniture again into a new house. Like I'm just gonna hire somebody to do. Like everyone reaches a point in their life like I'm too old for this. I'm not doing it. I'm too old to set lineups. What it does is it frees me up to be kind of a impish asshole to my league mates, right? Like expect that at this point in the year, right? Like how can I get in front of what it is you're trying to accomplish and make it a little bit more difficult for you, right? Like we're all used to these unconscious things, right? Like walking is something we do unconsciously. Well, what happens if like every now and again, like you have to anticipate a snake or a rock or a puddle? Like that's going to make it a lot more difficult for you to do the unconscious thing, right? It's going to be in the back of your mind that like, this isn't working how I thought it was supposed to work, you know? And if you can do that to managers, what you do eventually is you frustrate them to a point where they just pay more attention to their other leagues. And it creates a very clear runway for you to do what you ideally want to do is optimize after that, you know?
Yeah, that's an awesome answer. Yeah, I mean, I think that it is a little bit of what I was saying is like you have optimized your process to the point where all your dynasty time is kind of spent getting ahead of your league mates inherently, right? Like that is what it's spent doing. So I think that's something a lot of people can take away is like expending their energy in the right places. Because a lot of the time, like I was saying earlier, I'm sitting here looking at a start sit decision for probably a collective like couple hours over a few days. You know what I mean? Like not at one time, but I'm like looking at it like now or whatever. Looking at it, you're like, dude, you could literally be sending out trades. You could be looking at somebody else's team and seeing what their deficiencies are. You could be doing so many other things with your time than that. So I think that's a great takeaway from Tommy here. Okay, good stuff. Let's move forward to this one. What kind of assets are you targeting this time of year as a contender?
So I have thoughts on this. We're at a point coming very, very soon where if you are undefeated, you need to be in a more consolidation mode, in my opinion. I think efficiency would dictate you should be in a consolidating mode of protecting your lead to get the bye, right? If you're a middle tier team, I think you have full permission to go get CeeDee Lamb right now, to get George Kittle right now, players that aren't going to help you in the short term, because what you see is almost Darwinism in the middle. And you need to find ways to differentiate yourself when it really matters. We're going to be entering bye weeks starting this week, right? And so people are going to have to start Kenny Gainwell. You know, I know he's on bye this week, but they're going to have to start those archetypes moving forward. The fact that you are willing to buy into a CeeDee Lamb or a George Kittle prepares you more fully to do that throughout the rest of the season. And then it allows you to almost peak at the right time. Because if you're not in line for a bye, the only thing that matters is getting in. It doesn't matter if you're a 3 seed or a 6 seed. There is no real advantage unless there's some sort of like scoring bump in the playoffs. So don't worry about it. You know, if the buys start to get out of reach, have longer range bets and just say, I'm going to be the 6 seed. That's cool. Whatever.
Damn, that's a great point. Actually, I like a lot of the time when I'm a contender this time of year, people aren't expecting you necessarily to be interested in the rookies. And so the ones who are underperforming, I like to kind of go after and see if I can, see if I can like create the taxi squad I would have hoped for if I had like draft picks, you know what I mean? And you can like get a couple of those guys. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to do that right now, but that's a great point. You know, taking on some players who are going to take a couple weeks to ramp up, maybe, meaning they're going to be at probably more value than you would get other guys at, but also like you're going to hit the ground running at the end of the season, and hopefully that's going to lift you into the playoffs and at least give you a shot to fight for that championship. So that's a really good point. I like that idea of trading for those kind of pieces as a contender, because also like no contender is going to be pissed about losing the season and having CeeDee on the roster. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like you're not going to be upset with that. So it's definitely kind of almost a two-way go, as you were saying earlier. I like that.
I love your point though, man. I have a calendar reminder that actually just pinged me today, and it said buy playoff bound rookies. I did a study last year.
You didn't tell us about this in your in-season cadence. You have reminders set?
Yeah, I have calendar reminders because I have a horrible memory. I didn't remember that, right?
That's so good.
But it said buy playoff bound rookies that are going to the NFL playoffs.
Oh, that's
Literally
good.
every single one of them gained value. Literally every single one. JJ McCarthy last year gained value on a playoff bound team. It's because they're island games. They're good teams, and people can't help but see, the Viking horns on the helmets and be like, yeah, JJ McCarthy could do that. If Sam Darnold could do it, JJ McCarthy could as well, right? And so it inflates their value. And not only that, like if it is a good environment, there's opportunity to perform really well, And so once we start to get that clarity, if the Packers are really good, let's say.
Oh, you nailed it. I was gonna say this guy. You nailed it. Yeah.
Matthew Golden, right? By Matthew Golden.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's those types of bets where you almost can't lose because the market is as predictable as we are. Like we know these things happen because we study them. And so if you have that type of signal, as long as you're a couple weeks in front of everyone else, you're going to be the first to the market and you're going to be profiting really no matter what.
Man, like I would even consider making that bet on Golden now because I think the price is going to be so acceptable for you, or you know what I mean? Like you're palatable, I should say. And like they're almost guaranteed a playoff spot. Like not for sure. I mean, obviously they're not perfect, but that team looks very good. And I just kind of believe in the Golden skill set, I should say. And so over time, I think that's going to elevate. You're seeing it in flashes. And so the only thing really in his way is a Romeo Dobbs, which I think is, you can overcome that speed bump. As much as I like Dobbs, big Dobbs guy over here, was in on him in college. But okay, great discussion there. Really love it. Let me hit some YouTube comments here before we hop into the trades and get out of here. So real quick here, question for Tommy. This is from Jay in the YouTube comments. Drawing on your vast experience in trading and dynasty valuations across many leagues, in your opinion, keep, trade, cut, Billy, Uriah.
This is actually really easy for me, y'all. Not a tough question, Jay. You try harder next time, buddy. All right. We're cutting Jake because he's not here. You couldn't show up if you're traveling. You can't show up, Jake. So you're gone. Easy cut.
Well done.
Billy, brutal. I gotta trade you, buddy. Do you guys remember The Office when who's the big guy? Kevin. When he sits on Michael's lap and then he wants to go sit on Phyllis's lap when they're Santas, they're dueling Santas. I've already had you, Billy. We've done a lot of shows together. Uriah, we don't get to podcast very much. So I'm keeping you. I'm trading Billy, and Jake, you're gone, buddy.
Wow, Uriah's the winner. Amazing. That's amazing. Great question, Jay. Like that was a great answer. Also, Tommy, I definitely would have totally flopped on that one.
I'm the aging asset you can't get much in return for, so you kind of stuck with me.
You just gotta hold on.
Billy has more trade value.
Oh my God, I'm not far behind you. All right, don't worry. Okay, Tony here in the comments, real quick here, just on the setting lineup stuff. I can't not set my own lineups. I feel like I don't have control in that sense. Then if I lose using an AI tool, I will say, why did I trust that stupid thing? And like the latter half of that, like, isn't as much for me and like trust that stupid thing, which is a fine take. But like, for me, it's really just the control. It's like, I feel like I'm like doing this thing and like, I am also putting a lot of effort into it. So it's like, I want to have that level of like, I did this, you know what I mean? Even though there's so much luck involved. So it's like, did I really do this? But Tony here, it's easier for me to live with the start-sit decision when it's my decision. And to, the point, that's harder when you have a lot of leagues like Tommy. And like, it is harder. Like I don't know how many leagues you're in, Tommy, but I'm in 16 dynasty. And then like another 5 or 6 that are like keeper or redraft leagues. Right. And so it's about 20 leagues. That's a lot. It's a lot to go through. And like, sometimes you're like, waivers. Like, do I really want to like look for this guy again who I really don't care about? And it's like, so it definitely gets tedious, but yeah, I mean, I get you. I get you, Tony. It's good stuff there. Okay. Let's hop into some dynasty trades here. Okay. We got a couple really interesting ones here. First one is something actually Uriah and I were chatting about. I guess trades and non-trades, we should say, but definitely some really interesting stuff here. First one is Malik Neighbors, somebody we were talking about a lot this episode. Malik Neighbors for CeeDee Lamb and a 27 first. Tommy, which side are you falling on Neighbors for CeeDee Lamb and a first, 27 first? And do we know how late the first was? Early the first was, Uriah?
Early
Early
Yeah.
first.
What Neighbors would have to do would be something akin to the Antonio Brown career arc to make this worth it. You're making a huge bet. And I, like I said earlier, I think Malik Neighbors should be the wide receiver 1 overall in Dynasty. He would have to differentiate himself from CeeDee Lamb, which is a difficult thing to do, especially because CeeDee Lamb can come back this year in just like a few weeks. And so I think from a value perspective, a production perspective, of an odds bet, it all falls on the CeeDee Lamb and the 27 first side, because that could be the 112. And you can still do a lot with it between today and May of 2027.
All right, quickly, what if it was CD for Neighbors in the first?
Oh man. Oh gosh, I think I'd have to go the other way, right? Like,
yeah.
It's the way this is fair is if you put 2 seconds on one side of the deal and you have a direction, right? You put a 26 and a 27 second on the side that currently doesn't have picks, and you pick which way you're trying to go with your build, and you say, like, by 2027, I'm going to be so good it's not going to matter. That's going to be the 112 versus the 201. What do you guys think, though?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty much in line mostly with what you said. What the reason I threw this on here and I thought it was interesting is, correct me if I'm wrong, Uriah, you sent CD in a first?
It's the opposite. I sent
you sent Neighbor, okay,
for the guy who just lost Neighbors, plus a first that he had, somebody else's first.
Yeah. And so I thought it was just interesting, and I think they straight declined it, right?
Yeah.
It's like no interest. Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah, I think it's interesting either way, but just because we were in 2 different situations where you have one that's very seriously rebuilding and the other guy who's in first by a margin who just lost Neighbors. So I thought there might be some play there with the different teams or in different stratospheres at this point in time.
I'm surprised you didn't receive a counter back, to be honest with you, just considering the assets are so similar, right? Like, regardless of the injury, like, these are such similar assets. So it's like, if there's opportunity for me to continue contending and getting, this potentially elite player, or not potentially elite player, I know what it is, then why wouldn't I do that? So I thought it was kind of an interesting move, but it's like, I get, like, the first is a lot of value and also Neighbors is a lot of value, but it's just that those are the tough decisions we run into in Dynasty sometimes. Okay. Moving on here. This is one that happened in our DU2 league, I believe. 26 first plus a 26 second for Daniel Jones and Chigakwonkwo. Tommy, could you part ways with a first and a second for a Daniel Jones? I know you're big on QBs, kind of hoarding them, but is this the kind of QB you'd be, wanting to acquire?
What I would rather do is get the next Jackson Dart in my rookie draft. We've seen 2 out of the last 3 years first round NFL drafted quarterbacks dipping into the second round of our rookie drafts. And every single time that happens, it feels like a mistake, in my opinion.
It is.
And every single time I try to capitalize on it. This is a way to maybe extend a contending window into this year. And I respect people who make big moves like that. But if you want to be sustainably good at this game, getting Jackson Dart next time is probably going to be a better bet for you. I will say Daniel Jones has looked better than I was anticipating. I sold him for a second and thought I was committing highway robbery like 5 months ago. And I'm the idiot. So we can all look pretty dumb with these types of deals, right? On either side.
I mean, please, Daniel Jones that long ago was a pumpkin. You know what I mean? Like nobody wanted him. So like you can't really, and nobody thought that he was going to come here and even look halfway decent. But also, I mean, he did kind of turn into a pumpkin this past week. Like he didn't look as good as he did the past couple of weeks. And we talked about this last week. And if we kind of believed in him, and I thought the numbers just didn't really show it. Like he definitely is producing for fantasy, but when you actually dig into the numbers, you're like, it's not quite all there. It's a lot of the same stuff we've seen before, just minus the turnovers, which popped up. But I largely agree with Tommy's point. Also, if you're looking for somebody else to listen to, Tommy and John are definitely the ones you want to turn to. Tommy was all over this. I think we actually had a conversation with you on this show about Jackson Dart and your valuation of him. I think you had him like in the 106 range or whatever in your rankings, but not. And we talked about, would you actually take him there? And you're like, yeah, I would, but I don't have to, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also going to Uriah's point. Since we've done this podcast, I feel like he said this. He's like, if a quarterback is drafted in the first round, you take him in the first round of your dynasty league. Like, he just shouldn't exit that first round of your dynasty league. And I think, obviously there's going to be some misses on that, but large majority of the time, those guys are going to hold more value over a longer period of time and have the potential of what Jackson Dart just did. I've seen people talk about him as a potential, or not a potential, but talking about paying top 12 prices for him. Not that you have to, but they'd be willing to get there on it, right? And it's like, yeah, right. Drake May, that's another one. Yeah, absolutely. So like these guys, like you got to just get in there on these guys. So great
There's
point.
a
Great point on
hierarchy.
that.
It's really simple. It is take the 101 quarterback if they're drafted first overall in the NFL draft, followed very closely by take a first round NFL drafted running back, followed by any first round quarterback, then any second round running back, and then any first round wide receiver. If you do that, you're playing the odds better than the market every single time. It doesn't matter what the names are. It really doesn't matter. And so it's not like, oh, we're so smart. It's just you're looking back historically for these sorts of wisdoms, right? Like it's pretty easy to not pick names, to just pick profiles.
Yeah, and just on the final thing on the Daniel Jones trade, I think we were kind of on the same page with which side we would take and kind of why, or just the valuation of it. But somebody came to me with basically the same offer at me. I think it was just like Daniel Jones. I don't think it was Daniel Jones and something for like my first and something else or whatever. And I was like, there's very little things, that would get me to trade a first for Daniel Jones was my response back. And so, that's how I feel about it. I'm just surprised when I saw it get done. I was like, holy crap, somebody like really believes that this is the thing. And I can understand why from the first couple of weeks, but just with any quarterback who has had the history like Daniel Jones has had, and it's almost like Kyler Murray is almost getting to that area for me where it's just like, always rocky, never steady, never consistent. You know what I mean? And like, obviously Kyler is a better fantasy asset than Daniel Jones, because even on his worst days, he's producing like 20 points a game or whatever. But just my point is that they're such inherently risky, like football players, not even like fantasy assets. They just like may not be in the position they're in for a very long time. I would not want to give up a first for that. And I would be looking elsewhere to spend that first and go up in the rankings of quarterbacks and spend up if I were going to do anything. So
can I send you two offers real quick? I'm gonna send you two theoretical offers with Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
You give me your 2027 first.
Okay.
And I will give you back your 2026 first and Daniel Jones. Yeah, I think that's how you do those types of deals with Daniel Jones, where you can bet against him. You can get somebody's 27 first, and you can give them back their 26 first, or do it to 28. The same sort of path where like Daniel Jones theoretically won't exist in 2028 in the fantasy game, Yeah.
There's an I see exactly what you're getting at. You may have to like add one or two things to one side or the other to like make it really work, but that makes a lot of sense. Like that's how you actually take on a risky asset like that, right? You make it seem like you're giving up that value of the first, but you're kind of not. And so I like that idea a lot. That's a heady way to play it. Okay, cool. Real quick here, Slashy in the YouTube comments up, boys. What is going on? Thank you for tuning in. Okay, this went down in DU3 or one of our DU leagues. Forgot they're all about the same. They're 12-team, full PPR, except for DU5. Superflex tight end premium 1.5. Just throw that out there. This one was, I think, a Uriah trade. It was a Bill, JCM, for 26 second. So this is kind of like right on the money, if you ask me, for market. So I'll leave it there and I'll throw some extra comments in at the end. But Tommy, how do you feel about this trade? You taking Bill, the running back of the Washington Commanders, or a 26-second?
Here's what I like about it is it pushes you into a more optimal roster construction. So it helps you in that direction. You lose a little liquidity, but it forces your hand to be a running back at volume person to a slightly larger degree. Ideally, you don't need Bill because you've got 20 other Bill-like profiles. But if you don't, like, this is a good way to do that. I think it's fair from a value standpoint. And I think the horizon is a little bit brighter for cross-scheme merit. Uriah, walk me through your process on this, though.
I believe this was DU2. So DU2 is the same one with trying to offload CD for neighbors. I'm big time rebuild, right? So, and I'm really leaning into it and not forgetting about it like I did last year. Well, I realize it's rookie draft season and I don't have as many picks as I probably should. One of the biggest things is I have like 74% JCM. I have them in, almost all my leagues, but like 2 at the time. So it's, if the future's brighter for JCM, which I think it was, because I think he is got elite talents that will show up eventually. I'm not going to miss him so much in DU2. I have him other places. So it's kind of it's really just like a portfolio thing. Like I don't need 74% JCM. I could deal with 68% or whatever the hell it is and get a 26-second and add to my pile of 26 seconds that I will have for this rebuild team.
Dig it, man. Yeah. That's a great way to play it, honestly, because what does Bill represent? It's a couple of lineup choices, right? And it removes one of those for you as well, which, make your weekend a little nicer.
Yeah.
Well, look, you guys aren't setting lineups anymore, so what are you even talking about? You don't need to worry about
I still have to do it manually. I'm just letting the computer tell me what to do.
I try to help it. I know that sounds crazy, but I try to construct my roster to help the AI tool
make it easier for the choices.
It's a partner. It might not have a heart, but it's one of your partners in this endeavor,
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's hilarious, dude. That's amazing. Yeah, like the JCM thing, I think that your process makes total sense to me. You turned a 4th round pick into a 2nd round pick, number one. I know we don't want to be sunk cost fallacy, and he's obviously different than the 4th round pick that we chose him at. But, there's still, I think, a little bit up in the air with him. He hasn't been perfect. I agree with Tommy. There's probably some better days ahead for him, just given like opportunity is going to be there. You potentially could have waited and gotten 2 seconds. Maybe you could have pushed for a 2nd and a 3rd or something like that.
Sure.
But again, like maybe not. Who knows? We don't know. And so I think, with your point of being like, I got a lot of this guy and like I do believe in him, but like let me hedge my bet in a spot where it makes sense for me to hedge my bet. Like Tommy said, get rid of these points, get rid of a lineup decision, and get a pick on my team that really needs picks for the future. So makes a lot of sense. Love that trade, and it probably works for both teams, to be honest. Okay, last one here. You mentioned Jackson Dart. Honestly, I threw this one on because I wanted to make sure we talked about Jackson Dart and just kind of if we bought into, the profile of the player. He's come on real quick here. I think a week ago, nobody would have thought he'd be being moved for, these kind of deals or anything like that. But I saw this actually. This is a real deal that got done. Jackson Dart for a 27 first, 4 seconds, and Luther Burden. So do you believe in Jackson Dart that much, Tommy, given what we've seen? Definitely a good start. Lost neighbors, still pulled out a win against a team that I don't think anybody expected them to win against. I mean, is he worth a first? What's the equivalent to definitely a first, 4 seconds, and Luther Burden?
Have you guys ever seen a grandfather clock with like the big pendulum that swings back and forth?
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Dart is on the pendulum between Mahomes and Will Levis several times in a single play. He's unbelievably like wild. He's like a squirrel, like a rabid squirrel playing football. I couldn't believe how out of structure he was, yet like comfortable in that chaos. There's a very, very wide range of outcomes with this player. The reason I was into him is because he was so cheap and his profile was strong. Like, this becomes a very league-specific question of what can I do with that 2027 first, and can I liquidate Luther Burden effectively? I have concerns about Burden, but at that acquisition cost, like he's a throw-in, right? So
yeah, that's what I think. Yeah,
Yeah, he becomes the next expanding asset from a value standpoint, right? So how do I leverage that in this 2027 first? And can I stomach like having a slightly shallower QB room? I would rather use him to tier up into a known profile at quarterback, especially as we get into bye weeks, especially as more of these guys get hurt. I'd be shopping to try to get into Joe Burrow as opposed to cashing out for a lot of pieces. Can I consolidate into an elite piece? I traded Jackson Dart and Cam Ward and actually Quinshon Judkins in a experts league. It was big deal. But this is a super premium to quarterbacks. And I got Joe Burrow and Caleb Johnson. Is that his name? The Steelers running back. Didn't love it from a value standpoint, but quarterbacks were entirely inaccessible, right? And so I took over this abandoned team. I got into Jalen Hurts. I got into Joe Burrow. Construction complete. Now it's just a matter of like filling around the players. So if you can do that type of deal, that's great. If you can't, this isn't a bad way to exit Jackson Dart.
Yeah, damn. Yeah. Jackson Dart for Joe Burrow. That's a heady play right there. If you can add some pieces and get into Burrow, like 100% on board with that. Uriah, what are your thoughts on this? Anything?
Now you guys pretty much covered it. I think that's more than enough to move off of Dart for what he is right now.
Yeah. No, I totally. Yeah, it's definitely fair. I think you're getting a free asset. Like you said, you can argue over which asset's the free one. If it's a couple seconds, if it's burning, whatever. I think you're basically getting something free for Dart. And on the right team, I'd totally be willing to do that. The team I have Dart on is a pretty strong contender, and like it doesn't necessarily serve me to get out on him for picks like that. So I might be looking to trade up, like Tommy's saying, maybe for a quarterback who's actually playing still, but we'll see. But the Burrow one, if you're not in it necessarily and you have, enough to kind of move your Dart share plus some stuff for Burrow, I mean, that's the move right now. Because I'm sure there are plenty of contenders who are, number one, need something, but number two, like I've totally seen people like Burrow, injuries, poverty franchise, can't do this anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're just like, I can't do it. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity on that end of things.
And sick of Browning's shit too. He scored like 5 points 2 weeks in a row or something. Like, I'm covered with Burrow because I've got Jake. No, you're not. You're not. So seeing Jackson Dart's 10 carries in his first start, there's probably a little bit of a value bump and a little bit more interest in him because nobody wanted him a month ago.
Love that. Everybody listen to Tommy. He told you to buy Jackson Dart way in your rookie drafts, and it would have been easy. You could be selling him for this stuff. You wouldn't have to be worrying about buying him or anything like that. So, oh man, this was such a good episode. Another great one. Thank you so much for joining us, Tommy. If you want to catch Tommy, you can find him on the socials on Blue Sky, right? Tommy Blair.
Yeah.
On Blue Sky.
Tommy B on Blue Sky. Yeah.
At FF Tommy B on Blue Sky. Thank you. If you want to hear him, go check out the Superflex Super Show, weekly listening for me. Love what they do over there. So good. Hop in their Discord. Hop in our Discord. We got a lot going on. It's great stuff. You can talk to us all in there. Other than that, Tommy, is there anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, just thanks for having me on, y'all. I'll be doing start sits on the Fantasy Now Plus Sunday live stream. I've never done start sits, so
really
they let me in the door. I'm gonna do it. It's gonna be fun.
That's super exciting. We'll have to post a link in the Discord so we all can check it out. But that's really good stuff. Happy for you, Tommy. Excited for you. We'll obviously have you back soon. But thank you so much for joining us, man. This was so good.
Thank you. Love y'all. Thank you.
All right. If anybody wants to connect with us at Dynasty Underdog on the socials, catch the Discord link in the show description. Otherwise, we're out of here. Peace out. Thanks for joining us.
Later.